Thanks for watching Health Matters. I'm Gwen Wirth with Alberta Health Services, and today we're talking with Heather Mathur, dietitian with nutrition services at AHS, about fueling children and young athletes by supporting healthy eating environments. Thanks so much for joining us today, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
So why is it important for children participating in sports and young athletes to eat well?
Well, proper nutrition and hydration really affects their performance, their athletic performance. It helps fuel their performance, and the hydration helps their body stay cool. So those are important. Beyond, sports nutrition, though, it's important to feed our children healthy foods. It creates healthy weight. It helps prevent chronic disease like diabetes, osteoporosis, heart disease, and cancers. So, and kids are going to feel more energetic overall if they're fed a healthy diet. So lots of benefits beyond sports.
Absolutely, great benefits. So what are some good food and beverage choices for those children active in sports and those young athletes?
So staying hydrated with healthy beverages like water and milk, plain unsweetened milk and unsweetened soy beverages are great choices. That hydration is key, but just, plain simple water is one of the best choices. You don't have to buy any kind of fancy sports drinks to keep your kids hydrated. Hydration is really important before and during the activity and then after the activity. So those are really key. And then making sure that they have enough water to drink or hydration before the activity and during the day too. So for 2 to 3 year olds, they need about 4 cups of water, and then 4 to 8 year olds need about 5 cups.
And that's per day, correct?
Per day, yeah. And then 9 to 13, 6 to 7 cups, and then the teenage years is about 7 to 10 cups. And no need for sports drinks like the electrolyte drinks unless they're in an activity, continuous activity for an hour or more. So that's when a sports drink would be beneficial to get their electrolytes back and to refuel they have some carbohydrate to refuel their carbohydrate. No need though for energy drinks. Those are high in caffeine and sugar, and children and teens just don't need either one of those. So those aren't a good choice.
And what about like protein, carbohydrates? What kind of food would they actually need to eat to fuel their bodies?
Yeah, so protein's really important. We don't need to buy any kind of supplements for kids for the protein choices. Just looking at the new Canada Food Guide, there's some great information on protein choices there. It's important to build muscle and then to repair muscle. When kids are in activities, they do need repairing their muscles. So things like chicken and nuts and peanut butter are great choices. Eggs and cheese would be great protein choices to look for. Something simple and easy. Sometimes people are on the go, so things like the nuts and the peanut butter are easy protein choices. And then carbohydrates are really important, but complex carbohydrate, not a simple carbohydrate, like a donut or things like that. So things like rice, brown rice, whole wheat pasta would be great choices, whole grain breads and tortilla wraps. So think like a grilled chicken in a tortilla wrap with a glass of milk and some fruit. That would be an example of a good choice. A poached egg on a whole grain piece of toast, with some milk and some fruit. Those are simple, easy kind of snacks to make sure that they have enough fuel for their bodies.
All of that talk is making me very hungry. So what can our recreation facilities provide, and what can they do to support our young athletes in healthier choices?
Yeah, well, it's really important, to support kids to eat healthy. We want to have healthy foods around them. So a lot of times we find in recreation centers, it's the opposite. So we have things like deep fried foods, potato chips, chocolate bars, lots of things like pops, sugary kinds of drinks, as opposed to those healthy choices for kids. And they don't fuel athletic performance or sports activities, and they don't keep our kids healthy. So it makes a big difference if your environment supports that healthy eating. So, as a parent too, if your rec center doesn't have healthy choices, really advocate for those changes. A lot of times they think that not going to make the profits, people won't buy it. But research has shown that if they're available, people will purchase those items. And from surveys that we've done too, people want those healthier choices and they don't lose profits. And sometimes they'll go elsewhere too. You can lose a customer by not having those choices around. So strategies that recreation centers can do is first offering those healthy choices, have the healthier choices front and center. So have fruit or yogurt in the front, white milk in the front, and maybe things by the cash register where people can see them. They're more likely to buy it if they see it, and have less healthy things maybe in the back. That you might sell. Have promo material so that they're aware of the importance of healthy eating and that the healthy foods are there too, and maybe have promos too for a meal deal, like if there is a competitive competition going on or sports activity, to have some healthy meals for those sports teams that they can purchase while they're there. Because a lot of times people are out of town too, so they would appreciate it to have those healthier choices. And yeah, having them competitively priced too. So not a higher price, people are more likely to purchase it if it's a similar price.
Those are some excellent points. So where can our viewers go to find more information about what you spoke about today and maybe even some other ideas?
So, of course, our Healthy Eating Starts Here website is always a great resource, and a newer one that we have, or an updated version of this resource, a newer version of it, the Sports Nutrition for Youth Handbook for Coaches, is a good one to look at. So there's lots of ideas for hydration before and after competition, snacks. If you're going out of town for competition, what is great to fuel young athletes. So that's there. There's lots of recipes too, like smoothie recipes. There's a trail mix recipe on the Inspiring Healthy Eating on our AHS website.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, and there's drinks for healthy drinks for kids. That's another handout, and then the energy drink buzz handout with more information, and then of course the new food guide. Going to Health Canada's new food guide is a great resource, and then also a new website that we have is nutrition resources for seeing a dietitian. So you go to ahs.ca/nutrition, and you can find a dietitian in your area to see for free.
Oh, wow. That is all such great information. Thank you so much for joining us today, Heather. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll be back with more Health Matters right after this. Hi, and welcome back to Health Matters. I'm here now with Louise Lacanilao, and she's a registered dietitian with nutrition services at Alberta Health Services. And we're talking today about eating for cancer prevention. Thank you so much for joining me, Louise.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you hear in the news, it's almost daily, how certain foods are linked to causing cancer and whatnot. And it's really hard to figure out what's proven, and what is fact and what is just, jiminy jabber. So what do you tell people when they ask you about eating to prevent cancer?
Well, it's actually believed that about 45% of cancers could actually be preventable through changes in lifestyle, including changes with diet. But it can be really hard and confusing to sift through all the information that comes out on the web or in the news on diet and cancer. So I can certainly understand that. What we're finding, though, is it's not one single food that's actually going to prevent cancer, but more about our pattern of eating or what we're doing most of the time that's actually going to reduce risk. So you've probably heard of some of the plant-based eating guidelines out there, like the Mediterranean diet, the new Canada Food Guide that came out in January, or the DASH diet, the dietary approaches to reduce hypertension. And what those all have in common are they're actually focused on high amounts of vegetables and fruits, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and the plant proteins. And the nice thing is, these are the same guidelines that we suggest for reducing heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. So.
Now, you're right. I have been hearing a lot about those plant-based diets since the new Canada Food Guide came out. How does this kind of diet reduce your risk of cancer and among the other things that you mentioned?
Well, we've known for years that these unrefined plant foods are really high in the vitamins and minerals as well as fiber, but we're also finding these special compounds called phytonutrients or phytochemicals in these foods. And what happens is in the plant, it's helping the plant fight off disease and infection. And so then when we eat these plant foods, it helps our bodies to block substances that we're exposed to through eating, drinking, breathing from becoming cancer causing. So it's actually helping our bodies to reduce cell damage.
Wow, that is actually really interesting. So if somebody was interested in starting out with this, how would you suggest they begin, eating more plant-based foods? How would you say they start out?
Well, you don't necessarily have to cut out all animal foods because those can be really important sources of nutrients like iron and calcium. But you've seen the new Canada Food Guide Eat Well plate. That focuses on eating, covering half your plate with vegetables and fruit. A quarter of your plate would have whole grains, and that would leave a quarter for protein. And you might choose to switch out, say, the meat for some plant sources of protein, like your beans or legumes. And that actually would reduce your amount of red meat, because we actually recommend keeping that under about 12 to 18 ounces per week, as well as avoiding those processed meats. And that can reduce your risk of cancer. I always encourage people to just eat more of the plant foods that they already are familiar with and enjoy. So, planning in 1 or 2 servings of fruits and veggies at each meal. That might mean, starting out your day with an avocado tomato toast. At lunch, you might throw in some extra frozen vegetables into the soups that you're making. Have canned black beans or chickpeas in your pantries. You can toss those into different recipes that you're familiar with. And just have those all prepped and on hand so you can grab them.
You make it sound really easy, and I gather it actually is quite easy to make just those subtle changes to start out. Now, what about sugar? Do you need to be avoiding foods with sugar? Is there a link between sugar and cancer?
That's a great question, one I get all the time. And it's not quite as simple as sugar causing cancer. Well, what we do know is that over time, if you're constantly choosing those higher sugar foods, it can lead to extra calories, which could result in extra body fat, weight gain, and there is a strong link between being obese, overweight, and 13 different types of cancers. So it is really important to try to maintain that healthy weight. What we're also finding is, again, if you're constantly replacing those nutritious foods with higher sugar foods from processed sources, then you're going to miss out on the cancer-fighting compounds and that chance to reduce risk.
Those nutrients that you absolutely need from those more natural foods. So where can people go for more information about this?
Well, if you are interested in more information, then check out the Lowering Your Risk for Cancer on the www.unlockfoods.ca.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Louise. This was such great information. I really appreciate your time here.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Great. And we'll be right back with more Health Matters. Hello and welcome back to Health Matters. I'm here with Kavita Atwal, who is a student dietitian with Nutrition Services at AHS, and we're here to talk about the Mediterranean style of eating. Thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
So, what is the Mediterranean style of eating? Does this mean I get to go to the Mediterranean to start eating my food?
Well, the Mediterranean way of eating is more of a way of eating rather than a formal diet plan. And the food that's in the diet actually comes from regions around the Mediterranean. So Spain, southern Italy, Egypt, Morocco, and all those smaller countries. And the basis for this diet is based off of whole foods as opposed to processed foods. So there's a really large emphasis on fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, fish, and olive oil, which is kind of the main thing that a lot of people associate with the Mediterranean diet. And all of these foods are available in Alberta, so no, you don't have to go to the Mediterranean to partake in this diet, but that would be nice, hey?
Would be, yeah.
So this type of diet has actually been promoted as one of the healthiest ways and the ways to eat because of its vibrant way of living. And the diet kind of emphasizes taking a step back and cooking from scratch at home, taking time to make eating an event and enjoying it with your friends and family, because in North America we tend to kind of just eat in a hurry and then get to the next task. So kind of taking that time to enjoy the food, and then also being active, whether it's, gardening or going for a walk with your dog, or, participating in like running or other types of activity. And so that aspect of enjoying your meals is one of the big things as why it's promoted as being super healthy.
Oh, this sounds really good. I'm getting really interested in this. What are some of the other benefits of eating this style of diet?
So a lot of the foods, because they're whole foods, they're really high in nutrients like fiber, healthy fats, and like phytonutrients, which are really good for your heart and stuff like that. And these nutrients are associated with lowering your risk of heart disease. And because it's higher in those nutrients, it's lower in the nutrients that may be bad for your heart, such as those saturated fats that you find in butter, sugar, and those refined grains like white bread and pasta. And it's also lower in the high-fat meats, the red meat and high-fat cheeses and stuff. And those foods, again, are less healthy for your heart. And going back to that aspect of enjoying foods with your friends and family, it's actually been linked to reducing stress and actually improving mental health. So that's also a really cool aspect of the diet.
Well, I think we could all use probably a little less stress in our lives. So if this is not, heaping bowls of spaghetti and meatballs, or pizzas full of meat and things like that, how can people make this Mediterranean style diet a part of their regular habits?
Yeah, there's a few ways that you can do that, and yeah, you don't have to eat those heaping bowls of spaghetti. One of the cool things about the diet is focusing more so on what you should eat rather than focusing on what you can avoid. And I think that is what usually healthy eating is hard for people to accept, because you're so focused on what you shouldn't be eating when you should really focus on the foods that are good and you should enjoy. So I have 7 ways that you can incorporate the Mediterranean diet into your daily life. So the first thing is incorporating fruits and vegetables into your meals and snacks. Simple ways, if you don't like them plain, would be eating your carrots and celery with some hummus instead of those high-fat dips that have a lot of mayo and sour cream, subbing that cake for some fresh fruit after dessert, and even snacking on dried fruits. Those are really good for you as well. Choosing olive oil as your choice of fat instead of the butters that are really high in saturated fats. Olive oil has the monounsaturated fats that are really good for your heart. And so instead of cooking with coconut oil or butter, subbing that in. Also, when you have your bread, a lot of people like to, slather that butter on there, but dipping your bread into some olive oil that has some herbs and spices is a really good way to spice up your bread. And then that plant-based aspect, having peas, lentils, legumes 3 or 4 times a week instead of meat is a really good way. So you can incorporate those things into casseroles. You can put some lentils in your spaghetti sauce. And so that just emphasizes the plant-based aspect of it. And then fish is really important because fish has a lot of omega-3s, which is another nutrient that's really good for your heart. So trying to have fish instead of meat 3 times a week or something is going to really promote that heart healthy aspect. Choosing whole grain foods. So instead of going for that white pasta or the white bread, choosing the whole wheat, 100% whole grain stuff is really good for you, and that's going to give you some heart benefits as well. And then, like I was saying with herbs and spices, instead of using salt to spice up your food, herbs and spices actually have a lot of nutrients that you find in fruits and vegetables, but they spice up your food, and that's a really good way to get nutrients that way. And then the last way would be enjoying nuts and seeds and things like avocados as other sources of fat. So, eat more salads and sprinkle some nuts on the salad instead of that high fat cheese, on your sandwich instead of adding that bacon, sub it for the avocado. And avocado is very flavorful as well. So yeah, those are a few ways that you can add the Mediterranean style into your daily life.
Those all sound like really, useful and easy tips to do in the everyday. Where can our viewers go for more information?
So one of the biggest things that Canada has done is the new food guide has come out, and they've taken a lot of the stuff from the Mediterranean diet and emphasized it in their diet. So I have a few things that they have done. So that aspect I was talking to you about highly processed foods, limiting those, that's one of the aspects of the food guide. Eating meals with others, like I was saying, is really being promoted with the new food guide. Enjoying a variety of food. And when I say variety, I mean a variety of fruits and vegetables, not your variety of Chinese food and, Mexican food, but actually the whole foods. Cooking more at home, that emphasis on, cooking from scratch, and then taking the time to enjoy your food and really make it an event. So, and then other places is myhealth.alberta.ca will give some more information on the Mediterranean diet. It also has some really cool recipes like the couscous salad. And then AHS actually has a new nutrition area on it. So you can go to www.ahs.ca/nutrition and you can get in contact with the dietitian in your area if you want more information that way.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kavita. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today on AHS Health Matters. I'm Gwen Wirth. For more information about Alberta Health Services, nutrition, or the services provided in your community, visit our website at ahs.ca. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.